Hello, I'm Neil Quigley and welcome to the latest episode of my Blogcast. Hope you're good and you've had a nice couple of weeks. Mine have been great as always, been up to some fun stuff. A couple of Saturdays ago, my girlfriend threw a barbecue for a group of our mates, which was brilliant fun. We'd only seen them about a month before. We try and catch up maybe 4 or 5 times spread throughout the year, and sometimes there's quite big gaps. Sometimes we manage to see each other in quite close proximity. It just depends on all of our diaries because we're all very busy. I managed to get over to Linda's about an hour and a half before everyone else was due to arrive. That meant I could guarantee myself a car parking space and also help out with anything that needed to be organised last minute, which I did. Then everybody arrived within about an hour of each other at perfect intervals, to be honest, to welcome everybody in, have a quick chat with them. There were 8 of us in total. My girlfriend, being her marvellous hosted self, had prepared lots of wonderful food. Everybody brought their own vast amounts of alcohol. Once again, at this point, I was still not drinking alcohol due to the ongoing headaches I've been suffering with for well over a year now. So I supplied my own drink, which was a drink called Freedom. I've mentioned it before. It's a gluten-free beer, which I like the taste of. It gives me the illusion of drinking beer without the alcohol and, even more importantly, without the gluten. I actually think it tastes okay and I enjoy it. My girlfriend refers to it as beer-flavoured water, which, technically is also true. We were relatively lucky with the weather in that it was dry and sunny for the most part, but it wasn't particularly warm. But we did make our way outside and sat outside for most of the afternoon and the evening as we were enjoying our food. However, very slowly, one by one, we were all putting jumpers on, then putting jackets on as the temperature dropped and dropped. We were all getting to the stage where we were thinking maybe we should just go inside when there was a sudden downpour of rain, which made the decision for everyone. Luckily for me, at that point, I was already inside doing a few bits and pieces, so I managed to avoid getting wet, unlike some of the others, which was a big bonus. It was a great afternoon. We had a really good time just chatting, laughing and messing about whilst enjoying some good food. As I referenced earlier, I have been off alcohol for quite a long time now. If you are a fan of Friends, you might remember a small character called Fun Bobby, who one of the girls dated back in high school when he was nothing but lots of fun and lots of laughs. Then they met up with him later on, and it turned out he'd stopped drinking and was suddenly absolutely no fun at all and very boring. One of our friends compared me to Fun Bobby due to the fact I'm not drinking. I strongly dispute that claim. I think I'm still lots of fun whether I'm drinking or not, and it doesn't define me. I did find it funny and amusing, even though I'm definitely not Fun Bobby, just for the record. As ever at these sorts of events, I was one of the last ones to go to bed. Always seems to happen that way. Hate leaving any sort of party early. I guess because I'm afraid I'll miss something. Everyone was either staying over at Linda's or staying in a hotel locally, so we met up for a great big fry-up the next day, and it was a huge amount of food that we had. Very enjoyable, really good, and again, sociable. The tea and coffee was flowing, as was the conversation and the jokes. It was a lovely weekend, just spending virtually 2 days eating and socialising with friends. Kind of what all weekends should be. But of course, everyone is far too busy to do that every weekend. I did watch the Euro 2024 finals with my parents. My dad was actually around 7 when the England men's team won the World Cup in 1966, so at least he's been alive when that team have actually won something. I still haven't witnessed that myself yet, but ever the optimist, I thought this year against Spain, even though going into the game they were the better team, I still felt that we could win. I don't know why. I guess maybe because we'd been very lucky in some respects on how we'd got through certain games to get to the final. I didn't think we'd been playing particularly well, but we'd been resilient and been getting results, so I was hoping that would hold us in good stead. The excitement of both the quarterfinal and the semi-finals were great. I hoped the final could bring that sort of excitement and edge of the seat entertainment to proceedings. Spain, of course, took the lead, which was a bit concerning, and at that point you did start to think maybe it's not going to be our night once again. And then, almost out of nowhere, England managed to equalise. We were back in the game. And at this point, I'm thinking, you know what, we could go on and win it here. This could be it. It's kind of what we've been doing all tournament. This is it. We got to do it. And then Spain got that second goal. And at that point, even though I am a massive optimist, I did think the game was probably out of our hands. And sadly, it wasn't to be once again. Although it was a little bit frustrating that we hardly got to play any of the 4 minutes of injury time, because one of the Spanish players was down for treatment for at least 2.5 of those minutes, and we had a couple of substitutions as well. So I thought the referee was a little bit mean adding the time on. That said, if we're completely honest, Spain were the better team, and I'm not sure the extra couple of minutes would have made much difference in the end. Congratulations to Spain. We go again at the World Cup in 2 years. We have got some great young English players coming through. So I do believe in the next 10 years, the England men's team will win a major tournament. I actually think the women's team will also win again, maybe even managing to retain the Euros. They have the potential to be that good, but as ever, we'll see what happens. And the domestic football season is now just around the corner, so I'm looking forward to that and following Spurs once again to see if we could actually win a trophy for the first time since 2008. That has been far too long. Hopefully, Ange could get some silverware this season. Optimistic, excited, as every supporter is of every club at this point in the season. A friend of mine who I used to work with at Mix 96, a radio station in Aylesbury, is now working for one of the big national radio stations. Last week, he invited me to go to a gig with him in London to see Drake Milligan at the Islington Assembly Hall. We'd been meaning to catch up for quite a while, so it seemed the perfect opportunity. I am a big fan of Elvis Presley and country music. As it happens, Drake grew up listening to Elvis and used to be an Elvis impersonator and actually played him in a TV show in America. Add to that the fact he is a country singer based in Nashville. I was very much looking forward to going along and seeing him perform. I did a bit of research prior to going to see him, and I absolutely liked what I saw and heard. We made a bit of a night out of the trip to the concert. We met up beforehand and went and got some food. We made it into the venue in time to see half of the support act set. He was very good, set the tone perfectly. It was really, really hot in the Assembly Hall that night. Sensibly, we were both drinking water and we were actually standing quite near to the door, which I think turned out to be a very good idea in the end. Then the main event got underway. Drake and his band appeared on stage, and straight away he went into his own version of the Elvis classic, blue suede shoes, which was absolutely amazing. He has got a great voice, an amazing stage presence, and he's a good dancer as well. He has got all the moves. Straight away, he grabbed the entire audience and got them all on side. He has released one album so far, so he was doing all the songs of that. Drake says his musical influences are people like George Strait, George Jones, Merle Haggard, and you could really tell that in his songs, the way he sings them, the way he performs them. They've all got a really classic, traditional 60s, 50s country style feel to them and a sound to them as well. But there's also quite a bit of influence there, I would say, from 90s country stars with some of the lyrics and certainly some of the topics of songs. He and the band sounded great. There was quite a bit of audience interaction, and he's clearly a really nice, clever and switched on man, because unfortunately during the concert there were a couple of people who fainted just because it was so hot in there. Whenever he spotted that occurring, he called a halt to performing the songs and made sure he directed the security and the first aiders to the right area, and he just kept it very low key while these people were being looked after. As soon as he knew they were fine and everything was good, he just got straight back on with the gig. Very sensible and professional behaviour from a man who's still in his 20s. He was an absolute class act from start to finish. His songs are very catchy, instantly likeable. I am now 100% a Drake Milligan fan, and I am looking forward to hopefully going to see him again next time he's back in the UK. He did 3 gigs in London in total this time. All of them were sellouts. That was the first time he had headlined his own gigs in the UK, and I think it's fair to say they were all very successful, so he will be back doing more, I'm sure. It was a great night out with my mates, lovely chance to catch up over dinner, and the gig was absolutely brilliant. Such a decent night out. You cannot beat great live music, and if you are a fan of country and indeed Elvis, Drake Milligan is definitely worth checking out, I would say. For Christmas last year, my parents very kindly bought Linda a luxury wine tasting experience in London with a company called Wine Cottage. My dad and I had previously been on 2 of their wine tastings, a general red wine one and a vintage red wine experience are the 2 we'd been on. They're run by a fantastic gentleman called Cam, who is knowledgeable about wine. He's worked in the past for Emirates Airlines and Harrods. He knows everything about wine, and he's very good at explaining it and giving you knowledge about how you can work out where a wine is from, whether it's from a hot country or a cold country, for example, how you can work out the quality of the wine, the alcohol content, and just get the best of the taste and flavours, and also explains the process brilliantly as well. Now, obviously, it was given to Linda so she could take whoever she wanted. Thankfully for me, she decided to take me along, and we went and did it last Saturday. Wine Cottage generally hold them in very nice locations, and this one was no different. They'd booked a room in the Wellington Hotel near Victoria, which was just perfect for the occasion. They are very well-run events. We arrived and we had our name ticked off the list before we were sat down in our seats. The tables are set up so you share with 2 or 3 other couples on the same table who are on the tasted. We got there first, so we're shown to our table when it was just us. Already set up, you have the wines and the cheeses in order, ready to be paired up with your wines. Also, there are the wine glasses set up and they are lettered A, B, C, D, so you know which order you'll be drinking things in. You can already see on the end table a selection of the drinks that you will be sampling. And then Cam comes over and offers you a drink from the menu they have if you want to have a drink before the wine tasting starts. As I said, I have been to 2 of these tastings previously, and he has an exceptional memory and is such a top man. He actually recognized me from my previous visits, so very generously he gave us our drinks complimentary at the start, which was so lovely of him. I ordered a glass of the red wine, which was quite a momentous occasion. If you have been following my blogcast recently, I have not been drinking alcohol for over a year because I've had issues with headaches. However, when you're invited to a wine tasting and you do actually like wine, I kind of figured it was worth actually tasting the wine. Otherwise, what is the point of being there? And I must say, my first glass of a very nice red wine in a very long time tasted amazing. The room was filling up with everybody else on the tasting. My parents had very kindly bought Linda what they bill as the luxury wine tasting experience. So we were very much looking forward to that. We started with a full explanation of what was going to happen, and Cam gives you an overview on the wines and describes to you the different processes, the different way they make wine and how it's affected by the temperature that the grapes are grown, the region where they are grown as well, which can affect the taste, the acidity, the alcohol, whether they're sweet or not. And then he goes on to talk about the way in which the wine is made and fermented and aged and how that can affect the taste and indeed in some cases the alcohol volume of the wine as well. It's all fascinating stuff. Third one I've been to, and I've learned something new about wine or winemaking every single time. Also, since I'd last seen Cam, he had actually started making his own wine with various different vineyards all over the world. So this tasting did include 3 of his own wines. The first drink we had at this tasting was one of his champagnes. Now, for anything to be called champagne, it has to be produced in the Champagne region of France. Anything made anywhere else cannot be called champagne. So he had been out there to basically advise them how to make that wine and do it exactly as he instructed. His original plan with it was to produce a champagne for his sister's wedding, which he managed to achieve. It took him 3 years from start to finish to produce his champagne. There were only 4,000 bottles of it made, and it was the first thing we tried at this tasting, and it was amazing. Possibly the best champagne I have ever had. It has won an award for the best champagne in the UK in a recent competition, and it is only exclusively available in about 4 or 5 different restaurants in this country, and it sells for a fair amount if you buy it by the bottle. That tasted great, so we were already off to an amazing start. Then it was some white wine. Now I prefer red wine to white wine. That may be because I've not found a white wine I'd liked before. That may have changed. He produced a white wine from Bordeaux, which I thought was very drinkable. It had a very fruity flavour. It was quite light and very, very easy to drink. That was great. The second white we had was again one of Cam's own wines that he had produced. That also was so nice. And the wines are paired with cheese or chocolate. So the first few wines were paired with cheeses, the cheeses of which were great, really tasty, different textures, and obviously went perfectly with the wine that they'd been paired with. Then it was on to 2 bottles of red wine to try, the second of which was a Italian 2011 vintage Reserva wine, which was absolutely amazing. I enjoyed that so much. They give you a fair portion. It's about half a glass of every wine, although the champagne at the start, you got a full glass of that. So after the second red, we went on to a dessert wine, which again was one that Cam produced and had come top 3 in a wine awards in the UK. That, as you'd expect, was very, very nice as well, and accompanied by some truffle chocolate. And then lastly, we got a glass of very, very nice port, which was served in a chocolate edible cup. The whole thing takes about 2.5 hours. Before each wine, you're told about the wine, where it comes from, how it's made, and any interesting facts. You're also taught during the tasting how to properly taste wine, the correct way to judge the colour, to smell it, and to get the best out of a taste test. All of the wines tasted fantastic. You get the right amount, so you're a little bit tipsy at the end of things, but you're not out of hand drunk. It's all nicely controlled, which I think's important. I managed to grab a good chat and a picture with Cam at the end. I'm so pleased for him that he's gone from being a man who bought and supplied wines as a wine expert to actually making his own wine. You will not find a man more passionate about wine and what he does. And that's part of the joy of going to one of his events, because that enthusiasm really does come through. Now, this wine is very exclusive and you can't buy it in shops, you can't buy it online. But when you go to one of the tastings, you are allowed to buy any of the wine that you've sampled. Linda and I decided to get some. We could not decide which ones or which amounts of what we wanted. So in the end, she made the executive decision, which I fully support, of having one of each. And if you order at least 6, they will deliver. So we've done that, and I'm looking forward to them arriving so we can sample a bit more of all of the wines that we got to enjoy at that wine tasting. Had a fantastic time. I would definitely go to another wine cottage tasting. Once again, think they're fabulous events. Happily, as a result of the wine tasting, I didn't have any more alcohol that day, but although my headache did not get any better from having a bit of wine, it did not get any worse. So maybe I can return to the odd bit of alcohol in moderation at the right time if I've got nothing else planned that day. We kept the diary completely free after the wine tasting because I wasn't completely sure, obviously, how I was going to react to having alcohol for the first time in so long and what it would do to my normal everyday headache. Luckily, as I said, I didn't feel any worse, so we went and had a nice meal in Cote to celebrate, and I went back to the non-alcoholic mocktails just to be on the safe side. It was very enjoyable. Then when we got back that evening, merry, with a slight glow from the wine we had, we decided to watch the new Beverly Hills Cop on Netflix. I was actually a fan of the original films and had watched them, which is not always that usual for me to have seen classic films, but I do like Eddie Murphy in films, think he's great. I really enjoyed this new version. It clearly did not have the same budget, shall we say, as the latest Bad Boys film as a comparison. But you've got Eddie Murphy being Axel Foley, so what is not to like? They bring back most of the old characters, and there is a nod to lots of things you've seen in the original films. It also made me laugh out loud on several occasions. It was worth seeing, easy to watch after you've had a few wines, not something you had to think about too much or too deeply. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was a nice end to what was a great day. I am still having my acupuncture sessions in the hope that they do possibly, hopefully, clear up my ongoing headache situation. I've had 5 sessions so far. Hasn't had the complete desired effect as we speak. We're working on various things, and I'm quite enjoying these sessions though, because if nothing else, I do find them very relaxing, almost fall asleep when I'm there with the needles in various parts of my body. Sometimes it can take a while for the acupuncture to kick in. I have read somewhere that it could take 10 sessions or more before you start to see some results. Hopefully, though, ultimately it will work and rid me of these headaches. That would be fantastic. I'm very lucky where I work and for who I work for, because I'm near to the One Show studio. That means often during the afternoon, when I'm out and about around the building, or indeed when I'm in the office part, I can hear whoever's sound checking for the One Show that evening. In the past month, I've got to hear Keane, Kasabian, Becky Hill and Perry, to mention but a few, sound checking in the afternoon before their appearance. Previously, I've walked out to see Bryan Adams, Craig David and countless other people performing just outside my workplace, which is something I really like. Talking of live music, I have been to see Bruce Springsteen at Wembley Stadium. I will tell you all about that gig on the next Blogcast. Just a quick reminder that you can hear my radio show Saturday afternoons between 2 and 4 at radio9springs.com. That's it for this time. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, look after yourselves and each other, please. And I'll speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.